What's up, everybody?
What's up, dude?
Not much.
And a little bit of breaking news for everyone as far as health is concerned, global health. Last night, Joe Biden seemingly had a breakthrough, and not for nothing, found a cure for insomnia.
I thought you were gonna say cancer. Remember when he started talking about cancer?
Yeah.
I was like, we're gonna cure cancer. It's like, why are you always talking about cancer, bro? Like,
He talks about all kinds of shit that he has no intentions of dealing with, right? The whole time he was pretending that he didn't spend 50 fucking years breaking this fucking nation.
Yeah. It's like, you know what you can do? Fucking give people health care. You know what you can do? Cure cancer. Like, as a president, at least, maybe if you're like you know what I'm saying? Like,
100%.
Like, you obviously
went ahead and know a lot more about oncology than I think he does.
Like, obviously he wants to, give him more money to fund cancer, but like, still, like,
cancer research. He's not funding cancer, Gavin. Jeez. Fox News host over here. Joe Biden's funding cancer.
Did you hear about the New York Post story about the Kamala Harris?
Yeah, I did hear about that. Since we didn't cover it, I didn't feel the need to refute it. But it is obviously, for people who don't know, Murdoch owns New York Post. It's like a longtime rag sheet, basically. But people might remember it from the whole Hunter Biden story that caused a little bit of a kerfuffle there. Mm-hmm. And yeah, they were essentially a reporter resigned because she said she was pushed into publishing a story that basically Kamala Harris was donating her book or giving out her book to children at the border. It turned out it was like one individual case of that whole thing. But yeah, shout out to our patrons before we get into the talk of the day. The people who make our world go around, the people who are responsible for getting our van almost back on the road. And next month, guys, we'll be doing a proof of concept trailer. We'll be going out and shooting it, spending a few days in the van, getting accustomed to what it's going to be like to live on the road, making sure that all of our fixes are good, doing a test run. Basically, we'll shoot a trailer, put out a proof of concept. You guys can all check that out. And special thanks to everybody who's helped make that possible by contributing via Patreon, Super Chat, regular donations, or just fucking watching and hitting that like button.
Yeah, super big shout out. That link's in the description if you want to join our Vanguard community. Also, I want to just give a huge special shout out to Independent Left News, who recently joined our Patreon and who's also been helping us with setting up our Discord and some other stuff behind the scenes. So just wanted to say thanks, man. Really appreciating the help. And if you want access to that Discord that he's helped us set up, you can get that access by joining our Patreon. It's a Patreon-only Discord, but it's only $1 to get access, and then it's $5 if you want exclusive early access to certain videos, and then $10 a month if you want to become a Vanguardian patron, which means you can come on our streams actually once a month. We're going to be doing that on May 10th this next month. So again, if you want to be a part of the patron hangout, that is the way to do so. There's also a PayPal link in the description if you'd prefer to donate that way, or Super Chat, obviously. But all that regardless, you guys are here.
Aside,
yeah. Thanks
so much. We've got some good shit to cover today.
Super Chat already got started. Political Chef, appreciate that. And welcome everyone that's here. We appreciate all you guys showing up to watch. We really enjoy hanging out with you all.
Yeah, it's going to be a dope stream. Obviously, I guess where are we going to kick off today with? We were going to talk about that. We were going to do a throwback video, if I'm not mistaken, right? Because we're waiting till a little bit later to dive into Joe Biden's god-awful speech. I mean, if there's one thing that makes me miss Trump and Obama, it's whenever I have to listen to Joe Biden say fucking anything, because hear me out all the way. I don't give a shit. I know that all of their policies were terrible, but at least I could be engaged when I was listening to them. And I'll give Trump credit where credit's due. The guy is a way better orator. Or at least he was. He kind of fumbled and fucked up a lot during re-election. In 2016, though, he seemed to have his shit together. And for a lot of moments early on in his presidency, he could at least engage people. Obama also, tremendous orator, even though he was full of shit. He could sell you a fucking bridge. You know what I mean? Like, the guy could fucking swindle you. He was a beautiful orator.
He did. The whole time.
He'd swindled the fuck out of all of us, right? Like, but I mean, Joe Biden just puts you to sleep. I don't want to listen to him. I wanted to turn it off. I wasn't inspired at all. But anyway, we'll get into that a little bit later with our guest for the day, Andre Stackhouse.
Yeah, our guest will be joining us here in about 30 minutes or so to react to this Biden speech. So we'll be getting into that. But yeah, I guess a good place to start off would be Andrew Yang, right? It's been a couple
of weeks. Bro, it's so crazy because he's still running away with the race. I mean, I don't know how it'll all work out once ranked choice voting is factored in, but he seems to have a hefty fucking lead, guys.
Yep.
And it sucks that there's absolutely no true left opposition that seems to be getting the push and the groundswell that it needs. We obviously talked to Diane Morales as well as Carlos Menchaca really early on in the mayoral race, and it just doesn't seem like there's been the traction necessary to be able to get their name recognition elevated to the point that they're even in part of the conversation. Of course, we've talked to Diane Morales about the multiple instances of like systemic built-in racism that she's experienced. Her one quote was about the fact that she, had preferred edibles to smoking marijuana. Obviously, a tongue-in-cheek joke. People who have ascended to presidency have made similar jokes about only taking a puff or not inhaling, et cetera, et cetera. So obviously there have been institutional and systemic barriers between getting a leftist insurgent. However, those things that's not breaking news. We knew that was going to be there. So it's always a bit of a bummer to see. Although, anyway, we can just dive into Andrew Yang. It seems like there's a good chance he'll be the mayor of New York City. It does
seem like it does seem like there's a really good chance that he's going to be the next mayor of New York City. And I understand that some people are still a little bit, I guess, excited about that. Personally, myself, I was cautiously optimistic about Andrew Yang for a while. But the more I see from him, the more I hear from him, the more that I observe his campaign and his rhetoric, the less impressed I am. But frankly, as we're about to show you guys through a couple clips we found, that we resurfaced, the red flags were always there. They've
been there, bro.
They've been there. I was a little bit, I don't know what the word would be. I guess there's something that happens to leftists because there's so few actual leftists, at least on an electoral level, that sometimes we cling on to someone that we want to be what they're not. And I think that's what was going on with Andrew Yang for a while. He seemed so different. He seemed so genuine. He seems like such a real person to me. And also he did popularize universal basic income. And all of those things for the longest time made me give him the benefit of the doubt, despite the fact that there were glaring red flags from the very beginning, despite the fact that a lot of his policies, including his UBI, was never really the real deal.
It was an empty bag of beans.
And it wasn't a socialist UBI necessarily. It was more of a capitalist UBI. And that's what you start to realize about Andrew Yang, when you really start to pay attention, is it is really just, dressing up capitalism and reselling it to you. And again, so we found these clips that we thought would be worth playing for you guys. One of which is from the Jimmy Dore show from back in Yang's presidential campaign. And the other is actually from the Michael Brooks show. Rest in peace. Yeah. And I just thought it would be interesting to take a look at the way these guys were speaking about Yang at the time, and how he's evolved as a candidate, as a politician, as a political force in America.
And what the red flags always were.
Yeah. You can roast me as much as you want, Zach. For not seeing them.
No, it's okay. I'm not roasting you. I'm just saying that the Jimmy Dore thing was early on, and that's a policy that he's always had, not supporting the $15 minimum wage. And this is Jimmy at his finest, if I will say so myself.
I would agree. And if anyone out there hates Jimmy Dore and thinks he's completely useless because they've only seen 2 Twitter clips out of context that someone clipped him saying something stupid.
You're a regular viewer of the Majority Report.
Yeah. Then this is a good example of Jimmy Dore actually doing a real service. No one really held Yang to account that I saw in the same kind of a way.
Well, he wouldn't go on any fucking show that would hold him to account.
I mean, he went on a lot of shows back in the day.
Oh, I thought you meant now.
Oh, yeah. Now he won't, including this show.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at.
Yeah. One sec. Let me find this clip. Here we go.
Look at some struggling mom and pop retailer around the country. A lot of them are paying their workers $9-10 an hour. And then if you say, hey, it's $15, some of them might cut back shifts or some of them might struggle. I've run a small private company, and a lot of these small businesses are really, really close to, the red at any moment in time. Mm-hmm. And something that seems completely common sense to us, being hey, just pay people $15 an hour. Mm-hmm. Actually would cause some of these businesses to say, you know what, I'm gonna have to cut a shift or cut a worker at the margins. So again, I just rather just give people the raise directly, and I think workers would prefer that too. Yeah. If we just put $1,000 a month in your hand.
Yeah, I mean, again, the UBI is you're correct on that, and you're incorrect on the other stuff. Businesses hire when there's a demand for their product. End of sentence. And if there's a demand for their product, they got to hire a worker. And nobody's going to go, boy, I have all these orders, but I can't pay that guy $15, so I'm not going to fill them. So that's illogical. That is a right-wing talking point. That is not how economics works.
Businesses are not flourishing at that level. If they're just living hand to mouth and they don't have the orders, and they have a hard time even paying the people they have, if you elevate those costs, it might in some situations mean they cut shifts or cut workers. I mean, that is not economic theory. That is sound. That is right-wing talking points. But right, I have a small business. We have 6-7 employees at this place right here. And if I can't afford to pay someone a living wage, I should go out of business. Why should I be able to make a living wage, but the person who generates that income for me doesn't get to have a living wage? That's ridiculous.
Oh, brutal.
Dude, and look at the expression. He immediately goes back to that same expression that he had when Crystal and Kyle asked him about BDS. It's that like stone face. I'm no longer happy, Andrew. I'm Andrew angry.
He's like, oh shit, you're right, man.
Andrew in a corner.
And also, like, come on, guys, just to address that stupid argument against a federal minimum wage, because again, you could use that argument to say we shouldn't have a $7 minimum wage. You know, some businesses can't pay their employees $7. You know, I'm over here trying to pay my fucking employees $3. I can't afford to pay them $7. Why should I have to do that? Anyway, that's what, you know, that line of logic
all the time. He'll be like, they need to develop the skills that they need, and if you can't give them the skills, you're actually robbing them of the opportunity to build their lives up better. See, because if I can't hire this person and pay them a fucking starvation wage, then they can never learn how to develop the skills to make a wage that they can survive on. That's the argument that right wingers make, and it's horse shit. And if you ask Andrew Yang, why don't we just break up all these big corporations so that small businesses that he's so concerned about actually have a chance, and then they can pay their employees $25 an hour. What then, Andrew? And also, we subsidize another bullshit obfuscation.
We subsidize corporations and lots of industries like Amazon, for example, to the tune of, you know, millions and billions of dollars.
Petroleum industries that are killing our planet.
If we actually cared about making sure, you know, your mom and pop fucking shop, which by the way, no longer exists thanks to COVID. You know, if we're actually concerned about making sure that business stays open and can weather a federal minimum wage hike, then we would give those businesses subsidies just like we do Amazon and petroleum and all the Microsoft, all these other fucking. Do you think we can't make the money appear to make sure that the handful of mom and pop businesses that still exist in this country couldn't afford to make that adjustment in their wages? And Jimmy's right. Obviously, if they can afford, then they really shouldn't be reaping the benefits themselves as the owner class. You know, that's exploitation. But even if they're not able to, the government could easily step in and fill that void and give that money.
And the whole thing is that Andrew Yang, his whole shtick is having a really good assessment of an issue, kind of accelerating it, right? Because a lot of his estimations on automation are extremely rosy and would come from more Silicon Valley like prospects that you would get from like a VC instead of like what you would consider a more pragmatic estimate. So somebody like that's heavily invested in Uber. What's that guy's name? Chris Sacca. Like 10 years ago, he was on Shark Tank, or 5 years ago, he was on Shark Tank being like, we're about to have all self-driving cars for Uber. Like, there's no way we have that in even 15 years, I don't think. And because you have so many regulation hurdles, the government's terrible at doing, I don't know. I just don't think that the rollout is going to be as smooth as everybody's envisioning. But that being said, long term, it is still a problem that people recognize. Oh, yeah, I do see those things at McDonald's that I can type instead of having to pay somebody. So it resonates. And then he just completely botches the whole fucking solution. He doesn't want to talk about any real solutions. It's actually it actually makes him the perfect Democrat, because it's the same shit that they do all the time. Like Joe Biden in his speech last night talking about how we need to start buying American. It's like, okay, yeah, like you didn't fucking support NAFTA and TPP and all the shit that fucked up our whole economy, right? So Andrew Yang is giving a fair analysis that makes sense to people on the ground, and then he's giving them a bullshit solution, right? He's not interested in saving mom and pop shops, because if he was, he would be talking about reforming our economy so that it's not rigged to favor corporations.
Yeah, that's a great point too about the Joe Biden speech. And it's so funny to watch people give him credit for coming out here and being like, after 3 decades of neoliberalism completely fucking failing, we're going to try something a tiny little bit minusculely different. It's like, What like that was obviously gonna happen the whole time, dude. Like everyone saw that coming. Like, oh my god, the collapse was inevitable. I mean, it's been going on. It's been a perpetual collapse. Anyway, another clip that we cut, or rather downloaded, to play on this issue is one from Michael Brooks. Like I said, a voice that we definitely miss here at the Vanguard. Someone,
and I will say, Gavin, had I not heard this clip, I may have bought into Andrew Yang more. But after I watched the Joe Rogan thing, and after I heard him say he didn't support Medicare for all anymore, I was a regular viewer of Michael Brooks' show at this point, and I watched him savagely take down Andrew Yang, and I was like, yeah, fuck this guy. But anyway, at first I also was a little bit interested in him, similar to like the way that somebody like Kyle Kulinski, I think, was initially kind of interested in him, because he did start talking about shit like Medicare for all. He did start talking about a universal basic income. There's just some weird holes in there. And I thought that, the tremendous foresight and that from Michael Brooks just really was excellent here. And also, I will say, Matt Lech, actually, if you listened to the Michael Brooks show a lot back then, he did some tremendous takedowns of Andrew Yang as well. And he still pokes around the Majority Report. He's the last voice of reason there. So shout out to Matt Lech.
Yeah,
I don't know if you would come on our show because we've talked so much shit on your coworkers, but you're welcome here if you ever hear this.
Yeah, join the Vanguard, leave the Majority Report. Anyway, good luck on the road. Touring isn't easy or cheap. Let us know if we can help. Thanks so much, the virtual Jonathan. And this, this is the best way you can help, honestly, other than that.
Listening.
Well, yeah, listening, obviously. But if you wanted to help financially, obviously, Super Chat. There's also the PayPal and Patreon in the description. But thanks so much for that tip, man. We really genuinely appreciate it. But yeah, to move on to this Michael Brooks clip, like we were just mentioning, I think this is just perfect. And God, I really did. I didn't necessarily agree with Michael Brooks on everything, but I really did miss. He was
funny as fuck, dude.
He was funny, and also just he was radical without being reactionary. You know what I'm saying? Like, he never came off like he was just this reactionary loudmouth or something. Like, he always came off like he really had thought through his positions well. Like, he wasn't just saying shit to try to get, more attention or whatever. Like, he genuinely had a philosophy and an ideology underlying his beliefs. And I think that that's just a little bit rare, frankly, in this area, not necessarily the progressive lefty media space, but just in media and commentary in general. I mean, and I think that, he was just so articulate and intelligent. And again, I just miss his voice.
Yeah, for sure. Did you ever watch his debate with Destiny?
No, I would love to see that though.
Yeah, we should do a throwback reaction to that.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's play the clip.
All right. In case we clip this, I'm going to try really hard, because Andrew Yang fans do not seem to have, in general, a very well-developed sense of humor. So I'm going to try not to make any jokes about Andrew Yang. Although I don't think that the jokes that we've done have been particularly cutting or nasty. And nothing that we have said about Andrew Yang is predicated on a personalized premise about the guy. I have no idea what his intentions are. He could be a very nice guy. My problem is that offering $1,000 a month as an opt-in system could prove to be devastating for people who rely on serious benefits. It will have a long-term encroaching effect on all universal systems of welfare. I'm unclear what his position on Medicare for all is, and like other things, it seems to very much change depending on whether he's talking to a left-wing host or a right-wing host. My sense is he supports some kind of public option. I know that he opposes a $15 minimum wage. And I also know that he doesn't have any other plans for, like, as an example, if you give people $1,000 a month without universal rent control legislation, as an example, most of that money, I have no doubt, will be absorbed by landlords. What other problems have we had on a policy level with Andrew Yang, guys?
I mean, just the way that he frames his non-support for a raise in the minimum wage exposes that he really does see his UBI as a subsidy for employers who aren't willing to raise the wages of the people that they're employing.
Right.
And it's basically a system that he is creating to save capitalism, the system that we have right now, from the problems that it's creating through a tax on the majority of people, while at the same time taking away benefits from those who need it the most and putting them at a lower level. So like if you are already unable to achieve so much wealth because you don't have the same abilities as others, and you're not able to work, now you're in a situation where everyone else is $1,000 richer than you each month.
Yep.
We need to illustrate this point.
So that's probably a decent place to end. I think they broke it down really well.
Yeah, and shout out to Dave Griscom as well, another G.
Yeah.
That he's on Left Reckoning now. It's a good podcast. Yeah, that's David Griscom. They all look young. It's odd how much. I mean, obviously, but everybody ages.
The pandemic aged everyone. Looks like Zach froze. You there, bro? Zach froze. Huh.
Oh.
Hello. What's up, bro? You
Can you
froze
hear me
up.
now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Fuck.
You're still a little
I was
bit.
just getting into fucking rant about Andrew Yang, and my whole camera shit turns off, and I'm like fucking steamrolling. All right, let's just get clarity. Can everybody hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you. You're still a little bit fuzzy on the audio, on the visuals, but you're coming back now.
All right, why don't you take it, Gavin, and then I'll respond.
Okay, yeah, but generally, I just thought that was a really good breakdown of the issue. I also pulled this tweet that I thought was kind of funny that I think just kind of speaks to the sentiment about Andrew Yang, because it's kind of hard if you're not very literate when it comes to like economics or political ideologies or whatever to put your finger on it. And I thought this tweet did a good job. I don't know how to explain it, but Elon Musk, Andrew Yang, and Joe Rogan are all selling you the same bullshit. This is from Joshua Potash, by the way, who's a great reporter. He does a lot of journalism and reporting about like protests and stuff. Anyway, he said it's like gentrified neoliberalism. The facade has gotten a little bit better, but it's the same crap underneath. Plus, they play into an anti-intellectualism, especially Rogan and Musk. And if you think it's a little bit unfair to put Yang in here, he's a Trojan horse for implementing some of the most nefarious, hyper-neoliberal policies in our biggest cities, setting a dangerous precedent. And that's so true, because something that I've heard Andrew Yang talk about, which I do not like the sound of, is he talks about turning New York City into a smart city. So, basically opening the doors for companies like Tesla and Google, Microsoft to come in and privatize the shit out of the infrastructure of the city, whether that's the transportation infrastructure or anything else, the postal service, all that kind of stuff. It opens the door to data collection, corporatization, privatization, all of these things that I simply do not feel like have a really great relationship with government in a tax-paying country like ours. And I do feel like he's opening the door to a lot of that stuff. Like it says here, setting a dangerous precedent in the country's biggest city. But Zach, did you have anything else you wanted to say specific? Oh, what the hell?
What's
Hello?
up, dude? I'm coming
You there?
back. 1 second.
So yeah, it looks like Zach is gone. What's up, bro?
What the fuck? That took so long. Sorry, everybody. I'm fucking back now, and I'm ready to run some talk about Andrew Yang.
Did you hear what I was saying about the smart cities, though?
No, I couldn't hear anything that you said for the past.
Okay. Okay, gotcha. Well, I put up this tweet on screen that I thought was really funny from Joshua Potash, who says, I don't know how to explain it, but Elon Musk, Andrew Yang, and Joe Rogan are all selling you the same bullshit. It's like gentrified neoliberalism. The facade has gotten a little better, but it's the same crap underneath. And then he says, Andrew Yang is a Trojan horse for implementing some of the most nefarious hyper neoliberal policies in our biggest city, setting a dangerous precedent. And I went on to say that is very true. And in my opinion, among the most nefarious of those hyper neoliberal policies is turning New York City into a quote unquote smart city, which he's talked about, which would of course involve, Tesla and Google and Microsoft and all these companies basically coming in to privatize the infrastructure nominally to make things more convenient, I guess, just like all smart technology is, that's what they sell you on it. It's convenience, but then it's really about data collection. And
also what's going to happen with that is it's going to continue to, there's no talk in Andrew Yang's campaign that I can see of reducing the cost of housing on like Manhattan Island, for example, right? So what it's going to do is it's going to create a bunch of amenities for the people who are opulent that can afford to survive in New York City's most, up and coming hype areas. Like the entire island of Manhattan is basically costs an actual fucking fortune to live on. It also costs a fortune to live in Brooklyn now. It's like it's basically impossible to afford living in New York City if you're a working class person. And that's for a whole host of reasons that Andrew Yang doesn't have a solution for. But it's the same thing that happened to like Seattle, right? They're trying to attract all of these certain kinds of individuals and then sell them on this beautiful fantasy of neoliberalism, right? And there's no concern for the impact that that's going to have on anybody else. And it's kind of right. And I think that this dude, Joshua Potash, we should have him on the fucking podcast. I don't know who he is.
Yeah, he's great.
But he makes the perfect point, right? And you know how I kind of talked about how yesterday Joe Rogan is like the chieftain of the cult of the individual. These are like the three horsemen of the fucking cult of the individual, right? To pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And even though Andrew Yang comes in with the softness and he's like, oh, I want to talk about compassionate capitalism, human-centered capitalism. Let me tell you guys, I've been to fucking business school, and that means I want to take all of the fucking money from this community, but I want to do it with a fucking business that looks like Starbucks on the inside.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's so true. And again, also another issue, New York police budget, cut that shit in 50%. That's what Diane Morales is proposing. And
Close
Andrew Yang,
Rikers Island.
Yeah, exactly. And Andrew Yang is going to be a pro-police mayor. Let's just be honest, guys. I think that that's not really up for debate. And honestly, his stance on Palestine-Israel, which I wasn't aware of, but his disgusting stance on Palestine-Israel actually far predates this mayoral run. So that leads me to believe that it's not just him pandering to the Orthodox Jewish community. It actually is his deeply held, insidious, disgusting Islamophobic belief. The way he thinks about that situation. There's numerous videos of him basically completely.
Yeah, we dug into it after we kind of dragged him for it, and then everybody was like, blah, 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 blah. No,
yeah, but I didn't realize how many other statements that were on the record of him espousing similarly gross rhetoric on that issue. So, I just don't believe he stands with the oppressed. I think he's a charlatan. I think once he is elected to mayor, just like if he had been successful in his presidential campaign, I think he very quickly would have changed his tune, as he basically already has. Now that he's the front runner, he's not such a scrappy fucking underdog now, is he? No, he's basically just an normie Democrat. And honestly, the only thing that keeps me at all interested in Andrew Yang is the fact that the media continues to hate him. They seemingly refuse to cover him fairly, which is a little bit interesting to me, because from my eyes, it seems like he is, like I said, he's basically sold out. He's basically a normie Democrat now. So I don't really see what they're scared of. I mean, obviously it's been suggested that there's still a deep, anti-Asian racism that exists in our media that, that is preventing them from covering him fairly. And that might be true to some extent. But anyway, in my opinion, he's not.
I think they don't consider him one of them. He's still an outsider to them because of his outsider.
He bypassed the conventional means of gaining power. Yeah. He definitely and I guess that is the only way you could consider.
It's the same. It's kind of like an Elizabeth Warren effect, right? Now, like, despite how much she pretended and signaled that she was going to take down Bernie at all costs and do whatever it took to make Biden proud and happy and all that kind of shit, they still didn't really love her. Biden still didn't love her. The media still didn't really love her. Like, you know what I mean? It could have been something along those lines, but I do imagine that it's the fact that he did not, come up through the conventional power wings. They don't like anybody that is erratic and that they don't feel like they can completely control. And so even though he has signaled to them time and time again, enough to get a CNN slot, because he was, let's not forget him, after dropping out, he immediately took a job on CNN. So he signaled a bunch of times. I just think it's his outsider credentials at all that prohibit them from wanting, like, somebody that's like a true institutionalist in New York.
Exactly. Our guest should be arriving shortly. We're going to be talking with Andre Stackhouse from Washington State. He's a healthcare organizer. We've had him on a couple times, but we're going to be discussing this Biden speech a little bit. So yeah, while we wait, I guess we can just set that up a little bit and talk. I guess it was.
You want to do the Joe Rogan thing because that's in the headline.
True, we can do that too. I guess that's a good segue also because of that tweet that compared Andrew.
Let's just because people people obviously look, obviously Gavin and I are not fucking scientists, but I think it's pretty clear that Joe Rogan has been on this so many times. Yeah, and obviously isn't a scientist either. Yeah.
But yeah, he put out some clarifying comments after just creating a huge shitstorm the other day with his comments on corona.
Yeah, when he said that, if you're asking me and you're a 21-year-old and you're healthy, do you need the vaccine? I say no.
Yeah.
That's what he said.
I thought this was mildly amusing. We'll take a look.
Joe Rogan experience.
Well, the White House commented on what I said about vaccines.
It's so funny. Fauci hit you up.
Well, he didn't hit me up necessarily. He disagreed with me.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got vaxxed up, baby.
Did you?
I got one shot in the arm.
But didn't you already get COVID?
Yeah, I had Rona. I had it in October.
So why did you get a vaccination?
I'm a sheeple, dude. Part of the sheep, dude. I wanted it. Because my antibodies, I think, were gone. The last time we got tested for antibodies was 3 months after.
Mm-hmm.
And they said they were there, but they weren't super strong.
So you're scared.
Yeah.
Which you get, the Johnson & Johnson?
No, dude. I'm a Derna mama.
You only got one, though.
Yeah.
Why didn't you get two?
Because my second one is in like 2 weeks or a week. They have
okay.
to spread you out a month.
Yeah, 21 days. Right?
I got it. Nothing, no, I don't know, man. The whole thing, like Corona for me was weird already. So I was like, I don't know. I'll just do that thing to not have it again. I bought into the system. I'm a sheep.
Well, it's not being a sheep. I mean, there's some legitimate science behind this. It's not, this is like the thing about this whole thing, this people being upset at me. I didn't say, I'm not an anti-vax person.
Right.
In fact, I said I believe they're safe, and I encourage many people to take them. My parents were vaccinated. I just said I don't think that if you're a young, healthy person that you need it. Their argument was you need it for other people.
So you don't transmit the virus.
That makes more sense.
So
But that's a different argument. That's
I'm a
different
young,
conversation.
not so healthy person.
You're not that young.
Okay, Joe. Thanks, man.
You're not.
Okay.
Well,
If you were a hot chick,
then you'd say I was young.
I'd be like, you're.
That was my immediate reaction to this, though, is why did you not draw that conclusion at all? Of course, like, you know what? I think people can be skeptical of whatever the fuck they want. And if you ask me, do I think we should pass a sweeping law that says every single person has to get injected with this fucking vaccine? I would say, I don't know. I don't like that law. No, but I do think that it is common fucking sense to take the medical fucking consensus seriously, do what everybody is asking you, and play the role in a community and not spread a vaccine when you have reasonable evidence, massive amounts of reasonable evidence.
And I agree, by the way, that it's fine to be skeptical of the vaccine, big pharma, capitalism, all that stuff. But like I said on the show yesterday, man, if you have the biggest podcast in the world, maybe you should know what you're talking about before you're publicly skeptical about the vaccine, spew misinformation to your audience of massive amounts of people, and then influence the entire direction of that segment of the population. You know what I'm saying? Like, I get being skeptical. I get having conversations with people privately, but I do think that there's some level of fucking responsibility.
Oh yeah, and the other thing is to me, it just illustrated how out of touch he is, because he's not thinking about other people at all, or he wasn't until he got a shitstorm of controversy.
Yeah.
When it was just him talking to that other dude, bro. And for whoever was asking in the chat, I actually do know who this guy is. He's a stand-up comedian. He was in this show on Showtime that I used to watch occasionally. But anyway, it just showed how people were like, oh, well, you should get it for other people. The fact that he's like, that's a completely different argument. It's like, what are you talking about, dude? That's like the main reason that you should get it. That's the main reason I got it. I didn't want to give COVID to anybody else. Think about like how you would feel, Gavin, if you were responsible for the indirect death of another person because you weren't taking this shit seriously. That's where I thought. That's where I think people should collectively be thinking. It's like, think about all like people are like, you don't even know what's in that vaccine. And I'm like, yeah, do you know what's in fucking Wonder Bread? Do you know what's in your toothpaste? Do you know what's in a Diet Coke? Like, no, you fucking don't. And you're not that skeptical about it because there's not like some weird enticing conspiracy theory that's been spun about it. And I'm not to say that there's no reason to be skeptical of big pharma or getting a vaccine out fast. But you know what we also did pretty quickly with a shit ton of money and national effort? We got to the fucking moon. And there were a shit ton of people that didn't believe that happened either because, it was so fast. And, there were all these incentives and all these kinds of things.
And also, people want to talk about capitalism all the time in relation to this vaccine and why, because of capitalism, this and that. But let me let you in on another secret, guys. Because of capitalism, that's why people are fucking grifting off of this anti-vax shit. Why do you think people are all of a sudden changing
socialism got us the vaccine, the little bit of socialism that we have.
I'm just talking about commentators, specifically people in our space. Let's be honest, there's some of them. I think we all know who we're talking about. They've found a new audience on other platforms like Rockfin. And guess what's huge to talk about on that platform? Anti-vax shit. Guess why now all of a sudden some people that you might have taken seriously a year ago are now talking about some anti-vax shit? because they found a fucking lane. It's literally capitalism, guys. Let's not be dense here. That's what this is. People are making a lot of money off of sowing fear mongering. Honestly, that's what they're doing. Literally mongering fear about something that they do not know what they're talking about. And again, I don't think it should be censored. I would never beat that drum. I would never use this as an excuse to beat the censorship drum. I think that all these conversations should be allowed to be happened. I think that no one should be removed or deplatformed. That being said, I do think it's worth calling out. We can't
it's totally worth calling out. Yeah, 100%. That's what we're doing here. That's the whole point. If you're going to advocate to let everybody like fucking make their points, then you have to also take the responsibility of saying that point was fucking dumb and and whatever, right? But anyway, again, to be obvious, Gavin and I are also not doctors, so don't get your fucking COVID-19 vaccine advice from us.
Yeah, exactly. And I just want to play the last like 1 or 2 minutes here because I do think it was kind of funny, and all of the finger wagging aside, I do still think it's a little bit amusing the way he handles this next part.
You're on the ropes.
Am I backed up a
How
little
old
bit?
Are you?
37.
Yeah, you're on the ropes, bro.
What do you mean? That's
if you
still
have
young.
no children, if you had no children and you're a hot chick, let's be honest.
I'm older now.
You're on the ropes.
Okay, fine.
It's not bad.
I'm getting older.
I'm old as fuck.
Yeah, you are.
Okay,
yeah.
I'm 53. I'm old as fuck. I'm almost 20 years older than you.
When we celebrated your 50th birthday, we were in Detroit. Where were we?
I forget.
And it hit me hard that you were 50.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, my friend is 50. And I was starting to plan your funeral. I was going through all that stuff. I was like, what are we gonna do?
But honestly, it doesn't bother me.
No, because why? Because you're in such a great stride of your life.
Because I'm on fucking steroids. Because I'm juiced
Give
up.
them to me, bro.
No, I'm on testosterone replacement therapy and every vitamin known to man. I take a giant athletic greens every day.
Yeah.
I take a fucking pallet of vitamins.
What do I
feel
need to take?
Fantastic.
So that's why you shouldn't be taking this guy's like fucking scientific advice very seriously. Just so you know.
He has access to all the best shit in the world. If anything happens to him, he's straight taken care of.
Yeah, and it's just so funny the way like he's just such one of those like guys. It's like just takes enough vitamins, bro, and work out. It's gonna be fine. Like it's not me, but I do think it's
the
funny.
opposite of Gavin. Gavin is the opposite of that
I'm
persona.
like, just don't take vitamins. Never get enough iron. Never work out. But
the funniest shit ever is when the one time I took Gavin to the gym. He's so fucking awkward there. He's like, dude, what do we fucking do here? I'm like, we work out here. He's just like, okay, I want to ride on this bicycle. I'll see you later. Like,
I like pedaling on the bike when the little screen has like the mountain ride through like France or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I remember they had those at UMKC.
By the way, I just wanted to say thank you so much to Blue Earth Jewelry for the PayPal donation. We genuinely do appreciate
thank
that.
you. Yeah, we definitely appreciate that shit.
Thank you so much. It genuinely helps what we're doing with the van content and the documentary content coming in the near future. But with all that out of the way, we do want to talk a little bit about Joe Biden's State of the Union, first official.
Biden.
Yeah, exactly. And to break it down with us, we've invited friend of the show, citizen journalist and Medicare for All organizer Andre Stackhouse to join us. What's up, man?
Hey, and I believe my Twitter profile says pseudo journalist, so let's not let's not go too
Hey
far.
man, it looks lovely outside where you are.
We know how to enjoy the weather in Seattle when we get it.
There you go.
Yeah, definitely. It's been nice in Kansas City as well. We had very Seattle weather earlier this week. It was just like fucking thunderstorming every single fucking day, but now it's 75 and sunny, so we're soaking that in as well. I guess just right off of the bat, what was your reaction to any of the speech if you've seen it?
And also feel free to give yourself a little bit of an introduction if anyone's not aware of who you are.
Oh, hey, thanks for having me here. These days, I'm mostly an organizer for a whole Washington, the statewide Medicare for All campaign. Got my roots through the Bernie campaign, volunteered both times, was a delegate in 2020. Really just trying to get the word out about statewide Medicare for All. It's the main thing.
Hell yeah.
That's wonderful, dude. And like I mentioned, we've had Andre on a couple times. He works with Whole Washington, organizes with the folks there. So we'll probably have him on again in the near future to get some more updates on the state of the single payer state by state model. Again, that's what's going on in Washington. But yeah, did you have any reactions
Got more
to this?
important stuff right now. I mean, So I was able to watch maybe 20 minutes or so of it.
Enough to get put to sleep.
And I'm kind of shocked at so far. Yeah, so far my main reaction is the amount of talk that it's gotten seems, I don't know exactly where it's coming from. It seems like a very normal one of these things. It also kind of reminds me, I remember the day when, the big political events in a year or in a presidential term were like, oh, the State of the Union or the Democratic National Convention. And I've come so far from that. Now I'm sort of like, I have to kind of make myself watch these things. And I'm like, I mean, I guess it matters because he's the president, but yeah.
What do you mean, Andre? It matters because for the first time we have a female vice president and speaker of the House.
How many times did we clap for their significant others? How many times?
What? How many times? What?
Oh, how many times were there pauses to clap for everybody's significant other? It seemed like Joe Biden paused to clap for his wife like 13 times. There was the weird moment with Kamala Harris's husband. He was standing like 3 feet away from Joe. I don't know. I just thought that was odd. And I also, to echo Andre's sentiment, I watched this when I was working earlier today just to kind of, expose myself to it. And it was extremely bland and nothing even remote. Like supposedly the response to this was generally positive amongst Americans. I think that just shows that maybe nobody watched it and everybody pretended to. It was just so lackluster.
Yeah, it was fucking bullshit. We can watch a little bit of it if you want. I also pulled this moment that The Hill clipped of Bernie Sanders actually giving a bit of a standing ovation during part of the speech. So I thought we could react to that. And I would be interested if you guys think it was warranted the way Bernie reacted.
Guys and women on Wall Street, but Wall Street didn't build this country. The middle class built the country, and unions built the middle class.
That's why I sold out Delaware to the credit card companies.
So that's why I'm calling on Congress to pass Protect the Right to Organize Act, the PRO Act, and send it to my desk so we can support the right to unionize.
What if we send Medicare for all to your desk? What are you going to do then?
And by the way, while you're thinking about sending things to my desk, let's raise the minimum wage to $15.
Then do it, bitch.
No one.
Bernie's still standing, even though he knows that we're not going to get $15 an hour and we're not going to pass the PRO Act.
Working 40 hours a week should live below the poverty line.
I mean, is any of this getting through the Senate? Is there anything different there? Because he's kind of, and this is what happens a lot of the times, right? It's like the alleged support that comes with a statement is kind of treated like the accomplishment itself, right?
Yep.
And I mean, it would be, I don't even know. This isn't the State of the Union. This is what, the address to Congress.
Congress.
Oh, this is not the State of the Union?
No.
What the fuck? Really?
No, it's just an official address to Congress. Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was the State of the Union.
No.
Are you sure?
I'm almost positive.
I'm gonna look it up.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean,
Oh yeah, you're right.
This is exactly the body that he needs to directly tell. Like, you need to do this, otherwise it doesn't happen.
He needs to call out Joe Manchin by name and say, stop fucking around. Kirsten Sinema, stop fucking around.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm not going to get on anyone's back for applauding, giving unions credit for, helping build out the economy and the middle class of this country. So it doesn't upset me. But it's not.
But like you said, all he has to do is say it, and then he doesn't have to follow through on it. So if he just says it and Bernie claps, then how many people are going to think, "Oh, we have a pro-union president"?
Yeah, I mean, fair enough.
My beef is that there's been no action, so all this performative shit kind of pisses me off. Bernie, he voted for all the shit. He never held up the bill. He never. Said fuck this. He never used the power that Manchin would have used. I mean, we know this, and of course we know this about Bernie, that he probably wasn't going to. But I mean, it still pisses me off because I think he should.
Yeah. And I'm not trying to shit on Bernie too hard, but I do think it's true that he always talked about how he would be the organizer in chief if he got elected president. But he's still, as far as just pure favorability numbers goes, I think he's still probably the most popular politician in America. I don't know why he still couldn't. He doesn't even have to be the organizer in chief. It would be nice if he organized at all. he doesn't organize ever anything other than to donate to more Democrats, essentially. Like, here's a, hit this link to, give more of your hard-earned money to some fucking politician. But like, I haven't seen him organizing protests, about, for example, the fact that Joe Biden unilaterally took legalizing cannabis off of the Democratic Party platform, something that Bernie Sanders ran on. So if he's being consistent in his logic that, this is a complete failing, a complete moral failing, a manifestation of systemic racism, a criminal justice, crisis, then I don't see why he wouldn't, maintain that urgency now that, Biden is in power and he actually maybe could have some influence over him. Again, still being such a popular guy. So while I'm not saying it's Bernie's fault, I do think he could maybe do a little bit more to be fierce and to keep that kind of fire alive in the movement. Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
Or am I wrong? I mean, tell me if I'm wrong.
Well, you're definitely right in that, forget his favorability rating. I think we can safely say that there is probably no other politician in this country, except maybe Donald Trump or something like that, who could mobilize that many people at once. And, obviously that's not the type of person, we don't really want that from Donald Trump, not what he would mobilize. But we do want what Bernie could mobilize. And it's been clear. I mean, and this kind of goes all the way back, the split between his 2016 campaign and his 2020 campaign. His 2016 campaign was very decentralized, mobilizing down to the grassroots. And I can't tell you how many organizers that I have met who will explicitly say their origin story is the 2016 Bernie Sanders election. 2020 didn't really work the same way. It was like kind of run more as a traditional campaign. It was a little more top down. And, you didn't see the same thing. Like, even when it was clear that he was losing in 2016, right, we would get on these calls and he would be really emphasizing, we need people in every district to run, and I don't see him sort of encouraging those sort of insurgent runs the way he did in 2016. So, in that way, I don't know what happened, right? Because that was a pretty short amount of time. And even if you were to say, well, he kind of changed strategy for a few years for his presidential run, I mean, that's over, right? So I don't know what his newest strategy is.
I think it's just not becoming the fucking Ralph Nader, right? Like Chris Hedges said, right? He's afraid of being Ralph Nader. I think that's true. And I think that now he kind of knows where he's at. He made his choices and now he's just kind of laying in that bed is what it seemed like to me. There wasn't, but I saw that you clicked off the thing. There was another part of the speech.
Yeah, I just had one more thing to add to that conversation, which is that we have been talking a lot too about the lack of strategy coming from within the squad. The congressional progressives that are more fresh-faced than obviously someone like Bernie Sanders, who's an institution of the federal government at this point, at least. And I think it's worth saying too that some of that blame has to go to Bernie because these progressives like AOC, for example, were absolutely elected kind of on his coattails. And I don't say that to demean what they achieved, but it is true that they kind of rode the momentum of his movement into office. And from what I can tell, he doesn't really play the role of he doesn't really play the role of mentoring them in DC or operating as a progressive like left flank. It's not like we see him, he endorsed Cory Bush, but I haven't seen anything where they've gotten together and organized a protest or endorsed
created fanfare against reintroducing the Green New Deal.
Created some noise in general. In fact, I've seen more of that from Ed Markey.
The other way I think about it in a really depressing way is that they are following his lead, right? I mean, the lines that we kind of always knew Bernie wouldn't cross, right? He's not going to run as an independent or third party, right? The things he wouldn't do, he is going to endorse Hillary Clinton. He is going to endorse Joe Biden.
So true. That's so true.
I think the squad and stuff, they saw themselves as like, oh, that is the model for being both an insurgent and an institutionalist. But I think that what we see is that kind of when the push comes to shove, they always fall on the side of the institutional answer, as if it's the only answer. And so, yeah, I'm not surprised that this is the direction that the movement that he sort of mobilized began. And the signs really, again, I'll just say they happened between 2016 and 2020, right? So our revolution is a great example of an organization that in those years operated as a fairly independent institution, right? You could kind of imagine that being the 50-state institution that the left organized within, outside of the Democratic Party. But through 2020 and the 2020 election, it was slowly sort of handed over to become another one of these progressive but fundamentally like Democratic Party aligned institutions,
like a TYT kind of a deal. Honestly, like our revolution just felt like TYT activism to me. I that could be not represented.
There's some good Our Revolution work, but I know what you're saying. It did kind of have that vibe.
Well, when I was at I've been to multiple Our Revolution meetings, but
you said they were literally playing TYT at one of them?
They were literally playing TYT there, which is why I made that connection. So I'm just saying, like, you know.
Can you imagine if like the Black Panthers were all huddled around and like watching like TYT or something back in the day? Like, anyway, not to shit on activists at all.
No, and not to shit on Our Revolution. Obviously, it's kind of like one of those things with the DSA when you have a critique of like one DSA chapter that's not a substantive that's not a substantive critique of DSA chapters, whatever. I was mostly just making a joke. But anyway, if we want to go back to this, there was one more specific moment that I wanted to get your reaction to, Andre, because my biggest pet peeve about Joe Biden and all politicians is that they pretend that they don't have power and that they've never had power. And in the case of Joe Biden, that he hasn't been in power, one of the most powerful positions, depending on his current role at the time, for 50 fucking years since he became a senator of Delaware. So if we have the moment pulled up to you, Gavin, I think it's 1635.
Wait, in the full speech?
Yeah.
Okay, one sec. Let me.
Sure. Yeah, we can talk about it for a second. But this kind of common refrain that has come back to throughout I guess every politician ever is that, oh, we need to do this thing that I was actually responsible forever ago for, and it's constantly happening with Joe Biden. Yeah. Like, we need to resolve X issue that I was the problem for. Yeah. And so we can just react to this clip because I think that'll do a better job than me trying.
And that's also the point I was making when I said earlier it was so funny to watch him be like, neoliberalism is low key failed or whatever. It's like you and your buddies were the fucking architects of that shit. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Anyway, I know, for sure, I know what you mean with those moments.
More energy efficient buildings and homes. Electrical workers, IBEW members installing 500,000 charging stations along our highways, so we can own.
All right, yeah, it's this next part that I want to get.
So we can own the electric car market. Farmers planting cover crops so they can reduce the carbon dioxide in the air and get paid for doing it. Look, think about it. There is simply no reason why the blades for wind turbines can't be built in Pittsburgh instead of Beijing. No reason. None. No reason. So, folks, there's no reason why American workers can't lead the world in the production of electric vehicles and batteries. I mean, there is no reason. We have this capacity.
I'll tell you what the fucking reason is, Joe.
In the world.
All right, is that enough, or did you want to keep watching?
Well, yeah, that was mainly the point that he gets at, right? He goes on to say there's no reason that we can't be manufacturing goods at home. There's no reason that we can't be competing with China by building things at home, except this is the man that not only supported NAFTA, but he was also, at the end of the Obama administration, one of the key voices in pushing the Trans-Pacific Partnership. So this is a dude that he is the reason why we do not build shit at home, because you can pay somebody $1.50 an hour to work all day with no bathroom breaks overseas to build your fucking wind turbines, and capitalism is going to push those businesses overseas. Same thing that happened with why we can send all of our work to be exploited south of the border right now. If we allow countries to operate, companies to operate in other countries where labor exploitation is permitted and actually encouraged by the government, that we're never going to fucking build this shit in America. And he acts as if that's some sort of like, oh, we just need to rally and have some patriotic spirit, instead of his entire history of policy endorsements and making no solution to overturn them. He's making no proposition to change anything. He's saying we need to buy America. How is that any different than what Trump was saying?
Right. It's being said in this way where it's like, well, what's been lacking is just the can-do attitude, right? Don't you know that like we can do this, and
We're
it's
America.
like
We can do anything.
it's not some grand coincidence, right? Like that we have reached this point through a history and through a series of policy decisions.
Yeah,
but the other thing, and one of the things that if there is an attitude change that's worth talking about, and I love the work you guys are doing with the book club. One of the books I hope you'll do soon is the Shock Doctrine. I'm sure you've read it. But,
oh yeah, I've read that. I love that book.
Amazing.
But yeah, one of the things that Klein talks about that I think is really powerful is, the treatment of this sort of global trade and treating it as if it's a across the board substitute for domestic employment, domestic manufacturing, that kind of thing. It's like saying it reminds me, because I come from the tech industry, right? And certain companies, they would have this attitude that like, we can hire consultants who will come in from outside firms. They can do all of this. We'll pay them. They're very professional. And it's treated as the same thing, as if like us, the people who have to live with the consequences of these decisions, did it, right? It's just because, they might have the technical ability to do the same things or even more things, right? They're not the same people. They don't live and work at the company. They don't have the same stake in it, right? So
and often they're being massively
a completely
exploited.
different set.
And often they're being massively exploited to do that work. Borderline slave labor in some cases.
Right, exactly. So there are so many ways in which it's different, and this is like one of the things about the way economists, one of the hints that started to bother me about economists and the way that they often talk is just at first it seemed very, very powerful to think, in terms of economics, and then over time, as I learned more about how the world worked, I just realized a lot of economics is just removing things from the picture, right? So if you can move one lever, right, and then that makes money or anything else flow into a different place, a complete economic model would take all of that into account. But what they often do is they actually just have that stuff moved completely out of the picture. We're not even talking about these externalities. Well,
they'll say
then it
shit
looks
like,
pretty
in a
good.
perfect world, this is how the system will operate in economy. They love to say shit like that. In economics, it'll be like, well, under perfect circumstances or under, whatever, in under ideal conditions, this is how a consumer will respond. Yeah, no shit, but we don't live under ideal, and there's no kind of reckoning with that. And that's why economics is a sham profession that I have no respect for. But anyway.
Well, Andre, I was wondering just generally if you have any more optimism about what Biden said, because obviously, Zach and I are muckrakers. We're not really in the business of giving credit. We're trying to push this man and the administration to do what it needs to do and to help, the people and to not keep funneling our taxpayer money into the military, for example. 53% of the budget, military, an increase from last year's, despite the fact that we're getting out of Afghanistan. So it's like, where's all that money going to go? If we're going to stay in Afghanistan, or if we're going to get out of Afghanistan, but increase the military budget, and like, what are we going to start a new war? What I have to imagine that like that money.
China's our biggest threat now, right?
Exactly. We have two Cold Wars brewing. So I'm just wondering if you have any more optimism than I do, that maybe he actually is serious about this stuff, that he really is going to be more of a union president, less of a neoliberal, maybe going forward, maybe embrace, ending the filibuster to
fire
pass
the parliamentarian.
Yeah. What's your read?
So it's been trickier for me than I expected it to be. There was a line that I wanted to say, because it was a glimmer of hope or something. He said it in this speech. No, there are always glimmers of hope with any administration. Even Donald Trump, I remember there was this like one line of strategy that some healthcare activists had, which was that he had spoken highly of single payer systems in the past, in his books and stuff. And so there was sort of this whole, and that Donald Trump was genuinely kind of, he could be very random and unexpected at times, right? So there was always that little hope that like, well, maybe healthcare would just be this thing that he randomly got right.
Same with pardoning
Um,
Assange. Yeah.
Right. So there's always that element at play, and the other thing is, the 100 days thing. I don't know where that came from. I don't know if that's like a good sort of check mark or not. I will say I think it makes the most sense to grade presidential terms kind of like in terms. And if you're going to split it up further, I would do like pre-midterms, post-midterms, and most people know this, right? But so in that way, I think that there's still time, and I still do want to maintain some hope that like some of these things that look like they're right on the margin, right? Maybe the PRO Act is one of them, right? They might fall the right way, and that it could make a real difference. But in terms of like real solid signs that make me think, okay, I actually would like, if I was a betting man, I would say this is going to go well. Not really.
Yeah.
I think the most surprising one for me has been to see how apparently happy a lot of the climate movement seems to be with him. I know that obviously it's not, there are a lot of people who don't think it's nearly far enough, but the amount of like apparent institutional happiness with that coming from a lot of these organizations that I've generally held in fairly high esteem, makes me think, okay, maybe that's something where what we're seeing so far is good, and we can expect that to build more and more, but I haven't seen anything in terms of like really solid stuff, right? I mean, things that I always look at this point is just like personnel, right? His appointments, I was not like terribly impressed with.
No. Oh, Andre, did we lose you? This is time. It's not me, I don't think.
Yeah. It looks like Andre, you're frozen. Oh, there.
I can hear you, but I still can't
They're
see you.
serviceable at best.
There we go.
There you go. You're back. Sorry, you froze up for a second, man. You're back
Yeah,
though. And
I don't
think
know
we caught
quite
most
where
of what you. Well, you said it was.
Yeah.
You said you don't expect necessarily much, but it's serviceable at best. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, no. What I'm saying is there are always like there might be positive signs, right? But what can we say is like done, like already done, right? Things like personnel are things that are done. He made those appointments, right?
He already
So we can
undercut the checks that he promised people. He already didn't pass $15 minimum wage. He already didn't get back in the Iran deal. He already put new sanctions on Russia.
Yeah. So in terms of things that are like they have been done, I've said they've varied from like acceptable to quite lacking. In terms of like signs, like yes, I do think there are some positive signs and that there is time, but it's not so positive that I would be expecting it to go well.
Would you be giving him a standing ovation, Andre?
I'd have to watch the rest of the speech.
And
I heard
also,
people were, like losing their shit, crying, like
yeah. Well, hey man, I think that was all that we had really planned for the show today, but it was great catching up with you a little bit. I know we have a little more planned down the line to get some more updates on the fight for single payer systems at the state level. If you had anything that you wanted to plug to the audience really quickly before you got out of here, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, I think these things deserve a lot more time, but I do think that we're ready to shout them out now. So, whole Washington ballot initiative has been filed, where I-4181 signature collection starts in days. So we have from May to December to get, frankly, way more signatures than I had hoped. It's based on presidential election turnout. It's one of those things. So it's way more signatures than the last initiative we ran.
How many?
I believe it's over 400,000. Last one was like 350. So we've got our work cut out for us, but also the organization has grown significantly. The coalition has grown significantly. And the other thing is, last time we did a ballot to the people, which gives you maybe 2.5 months. This time we're doing initiative to the legislature, which has a few process differences, but one of them is that we get till December. So
nice.
A lot of reasons to think that we can do this, but it's a lot of work. It's a ground game. So the other big thing that I want to announce is the March for Medicare for All. This is something that is happening on July 24th all over the country. Right now, the places that I know that big marches are being planned is Washington, D.C., L.A., and now Seattle. I'm on the steering committee for the Seattle March, so I'll be playing a role in organizing that. But the main reason I'm shouting it out now is because we got a couple months, and I want it in every major city in this country. So we got to start planting those seeds.
And we're going to be having some of those organizers on. And we're going to be having some of those organizers on with you in the near future to talk more about that.
And we want to get the fucking van to Washington, hopefully for that fucking protest in July, because we want to also go out and help you guys get some fucking signatures while we're out there.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, Kenny made it out here. I mean,
yeah, we'll get the van out there. We're weeks away from getting our exhaust pipe welded back on. It's going to be really exciting. We'll be mobile again.
Yeah, we're getting close. But that sounds super exciting. It sounds like all the hard work that you guys are doing on there is actually culminating into something that's just that one step closer to the success of the policy. So that's hugely hard work, tough work, goes unsung. So, we thank you sincerely.
Yeah, there's one other thing I wanted to add because it goes back to Joe Biden a little bit.
Sure.
I'm probably making a mistake by last minute.
You're good.
We were getting so conclusive there, but no, I wanted to say Joe Biden has been fairly effective at sort of having this push-pull relationship with different constituencies on the left. They're all in various different states of like, we can work with him, we're happy with him, we can't, wherever they all are. I really feel like healthcare is the one that got nothing, like not even lip service, like a lot of these things, but like the $15 minimum wage, he'll get out there, he'll give it the lip service, and lip service ain't a lot, but it's the first.
He said he'd veto Medicare
with healthcare. He's like very clear, like we're subsidizing Cobra, we're vetoing it if it gets to my desk. Yeah. I am not open to anything that increases the deficit. It's like, okay, like just say that you won't do it. Like I don't understand. I mean, frankly, I should be thanking him because he's being pretty clear about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's fucked up, and to echo Gavin's sentiments from before, obviously you guys are doing some thankless work that's absolutely necessary, and that's why we want to keep shouting you guys out while you're on here. Yep. But as far as Joe Biden goes, he really has dropped the ball completely and kind of given the old middle finger to the healthcare movement. So
even abandoning his own promise of public option, which again was supposed to be the half measure watered down version.
That was before he'd even taken office. That was already being walked back.
So you fucking kidding me?
It was just to get the nomination. It was just to get Bernie supporters to get behind him and not vote. I mean, that's essentially what it was. I mean, we all know Joe Biden was not above lying with, constantly to get elected.
But I did think that Bernie Sanders was above clapping for him rather than calling that out.
Yeah. So anyway, thanks for your time tonight, Andre. It was great having you on.
Yeah. Peace, man. Thanks so much.
Cool. And then also, since Elisa's downstairs, do you want to punt on the book club?
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that. We'll do the book club later, guys.
Sorry, guys. My girlfriend is downstairs. She's going to give Gavin a ride back to my apartment. We're going to work on some shit tonight. And we'll be doing the book club tomorrow. So if you were here, this is going to be our last episode on Hate Inc. Because we're going to be starting a book club, a new book club with a good friend of the show, Kamali Rose. He's over at the Radical Democracy show. If you guys are longtime viewers of the Vanguards, you've definitely seen his face. So when we wrap Hate Inc., we're going to be doing Democracy Matters by the great Cornel West. But yeah, tune in tomorrow for that last live stream of the Hate Inc. book club. And as always, shout out to our fucking patrons. We love you guys.
Yeah, thanks so much. That link is in the description. And another huge shout out to Blue Earth Jewelry for the PayPal donation. Really genuinely appreciated. But yeah, everyone have a great rest of your night. We've enjoyed hanging out with you. Hit up those links. And also check out Andre Stackhouse. Sorry, man. Anyway, I can't speak anymore. So at that point, we're going to let you guys go. But
yeah, it was a lot of technical difficulties on this. I was gone for like 3 fucking minutes. Anyway, we need to recharge our batteries. We're slowly running out of energy.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.